we always get taught lessons along the way, and you learn, and you have to. Sometimes we don't get a choice. When people have choices, they always, you can pick and choose. I don't want it to be that hard. You know what I mean? Sometimes some of us, we don't get that option. It's gonna be this way regardless, and we got to make the best of it. But that's what makes us. You know what I mean? That's exactly what makes us, and that's what puts us in these situations. So that you look at a lot of things differently than everybody else. That's one thing I've noticed. At my time, I look at things completely different than a lot of people. I don't look at it like everybody else does.
You mind sharing like the grind, how you even ended up in the trucking game? Like, what's your story?
So, I'm a juvenile hall baby. I grew up in the system. My teens were I gave them away, as they say. I used to say they took them from me, but now in reality, I made those decisions, and I gave them away, to a different path. So I grew up in the system, juvenile hall, YA, prison. Through going through all that, when I got out of prison in about 2010, I couldn't find a job, man. Nobody wanted to hire me. It was very difficult for me to find employment. Used to have a lot more tattoos, of course, got some removed. But in the process, I ended up filing, going through all that, kind of getting to the point right before trucking did. I was working in the oil fields, cleaning tanks. And one day, I see a guy driving a semi, right? Don't think too much of it, I'm like, whatever. I know nothing of trucking. Yeah. I have no idea even what a 10-speed, 13, 18, any of those speeds are. I have no idea. I barely know how to drive a 6-speed car. And anyway, I go to my boss and I said, hey, I need more money, bro. Like, I'm putting in the work. I'm here. I put the effort in. He goes, bring me your Class A. And I said, Class A? I go, what's that? He goes, your driver license. I go, man, I have my driver's. No, you need to add an endorsement to it. And he kind of breaks it down quickly. And I'm like, what the hell is that? He goes, I go, where do you go get that? He goes, the DMV. I walk into the DMV and I told him, hey, I'm here to buy my Class A. The lady laughs and she goes, buy? Do you mean apply for it? No, I said, I don't want to apply. I just want to buy it. Like, how much is it? They're like, well, it doesn't work. Like, she gives me the handbook, says, go study it, fill out the application, come back. So, I go home, start kind of looking more into it. Obviously, it costs us money. I don't have it. So I said, I got to figure a way. Get my license eventually, obviously over time. Get my license. It didn't take me very long, to be honest. It took me like a month to get my license too. Got my license. I'm still in my job. I moved into drilling. I worked as a driller. Well, as a floor hand, but I worked in the water rigs. That's what they were, the water rigs. We were doing some work, and I remember I seen this Indian dude drive up in a semi, and he had if I'm not mistaken, he had a drill pipe. He had collars or something. He had something in the back that belonged to the rig. But I remember when I walked up and I told him, hey, this is your, like, how does this truck thing work? And he goes, oh, it's my truck. In his language mixed with English, kind of explained to me that it was his truck, and I was kind of like, what? However he translated it to me, but he let me know, that it was his truck and it was his business. And I just sat there and I started thinking, like, wait, what? How does this guy that's not from here, don't speak our language, how is he able to do this? I'm from here. I speak English. I was born and raised here, I go, there's no way. I said, I got to figure this out. There has to be more. And this can't be it. And so from there, I started looking into kind of becoming a truck owner, right? Not really knowing very much. A buddy of mine calls me, says, he actually sent me a picture of his brand new pickup. And his pickup, in the background, I can see his semi. And then as I was looking at my phone in the picture, I said, what's that in the back? He goes, well, that's my semi. And I was like, how'd you do that? And he told me, well, I went to this place. And he kind of gave me a little bit of small rundown. But I was like, all right. So I went, got the semi and really on a credit card that I had, kind of winged it. Then they told me, you need insurance. You need this. Where I was buying this, I said, insurance, what's that? Like, well, you need insurance for your commercial insurance. And it, like that, I just kept trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? From the MC, the DOT, all of it. Every single step of the way that we've gone through it, just continue to try figuring out. The only thing I knew was this, that, I had my wife's support and God. God and my wife, I go, other than that, I go, nothing else was going to stop me. You know what I mean? I knew I was going to figure it out one way or another. We were just gonna keep at it, you know, keep at it. And little by little, I mean, we got the insurance. I started looking for work, found work. You know, when that started to slow down, I said, okay, well, how do I find new work? In the meantime, how I made it work was I put a driver in the truck, and I was working 3 jobs. That's how I made that work. So one job pretty much paid for my family, like my family bills. The other job paid for the driver, kind of like the other job paid for the truck. Like that's how I made all that work. I just grinded and grinded. I kept them going. As soon as I seen a little bit of money, I said, I'm gonna buy another one. I was really making nothing at the beginning. I was losing money, but like everything, I knew this will turn. I knew eventually we were gonna turn this over. You know what I mean? We're gonna move this over into something bigger, and we were gonna continue to go. No matter what happened, no matter what it costed, I was just gonna stay in it. And it was super, super difficult. I'll tell you that. It was sleepless nights, stressful nights. But from one truck, which you have a picture of, from that one truck, today, about 7 or 8 years later, we're into this about 20, man, what I have 21 trucks. Yeah, 21 trucks, if I'm not mistaken. Don't quote me on that. I might have 21. But anyway, yeah, I have, from that one truck, all this came about. We stepped into the container world during the pandemic. One thing kind of slowed down, and I had to start moving and pivoting to figure out what's next. It was a very difficult time. Obviously, during the pandemic, everybody was getting affected by it. But I said, we got to figure this out. And by the grace of God, I got an email talking about, hey, do you have some trucks available? That was the one thing it said in the email. And I said, absolutely, I got some trucks available. They were literally parked almost. We had no work. And he goes, okay. He goes, I need them. When can you bring them here? And then we started talking, and I was like, well, what do you need, And then we were talking about pay. I kind of brought it up, like, hey, well, what do they pay, because I knew rates were crazy, so. And he kind of gave me the number, and I was in disbelief. I was like, there's no way. There's no way it pays that. So I actually went in my own pickup down to the port of Long Beach, and they had a little area where we staged at. And I get off, and there were a bunch of owner-operators, and it was a real thing, It was Walmart. Walmart needed the help, and there was representatives there from Walmart, and I think J.B. Hunt was running the project, and that's kind of how it all kind of came together. I remember they kept asking me, hey, you can go in the port, right? And, if you know me, I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. I'll go in there right now. They're like, okay. They're like,
I love this part.
He says, we go, I remember one of my first times, I think I was going into TTI. And I was going into TTI, and the guy, as I was driving in, he goes like that. And I kind of looked out my window, and I was like, what's that? Like, what are you doing? And then he looks, he goes like that again. And I was like,
all right back.
Yeah, and I'm like, like, what? And then he gets so mad, he, get out. Turn right here, you see right here, turn around. Go in there and turn back around. I'm like, wait, what are you? He goes, where's your TWIC card at? And I said, my TWIC card? What in the world? I said, hold on. What's that?
You had just learned the RFID, right?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Right before that, they had asked us, like, hey, you guys have your RFID? And I said, my RFID? I was like, yeah, but I thought my RFID tag was my CB radio.
Yeah.
I thought it was like some type of channel or maybe like a device that, I don't know. I just thought that it had something related to that because they just kind of kept pointing, and I'm like, yeah, I was gonna make this work one way or another because of the pay. I said I need this. No matter what happens, I'm gonna figure this out. And when we go in there, they told us, hey, your RFID tag, you guys don't have your RFID tags. And I was like,
I got my radio right here,
yeah,
bro.
I was like, RFID tag. I didn't even know what you're talking about, but I'm like, he goes, you need to get out, man. You need to get out of here. So then I sit there and I get out and I'm Googling RFID tag in the port, and boom, this little Long Beach office pulls up like area of help, I call the number. Hello, hey, I need an RFID tag. The lady's like, kind of like, oh, okay, well, they're $100 or whatever. I forgot the price of them. And I'm like, all right, can I just go pick one up? She's like, well, you need to go online. You can do it online or whatever. You can come here. And I can't remember the exact details, but I know I ended up getting it. And she gives me a concession stand agreement. And I grabbed it and I looked at it and I said, what's this? She goes, oh, you got to, fill that out to get you. We can get you a pass, but you need to fill that out so we can get you in for an agreement with Long Beach and Port of LA. And I was like, okay, but with the pass, can I go in there? She goes, well, yeah, after you activate it. And the guy tells me, hey, come in here and line up to here so I can make sure it's working and blah, 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 whatever you're supposed to do. And the lady helps me. She gets me going. I go back, hey, I got my RFID tag. She goes, you haven't paid for your day pass. You need to get out. I was like, oh, my God. So I get back out and I look up day pass for the Port of, like, what is this, and you got to go on there. And then the same lady from the Long Beach office, I call her back, like, she was real helpful. So I go, hey, man, what is that, She goes, oh, go on this website, and enter this, enter that, and pay that fee. Boom. She goes, wait a little bit and it'll activate. Cool. And so I had a day pass. Then I was able to get into the port. After obviously getting that, all that happened, I didn't have my TWIC card at the time, but my two of my guys that were working with me did have their TWIC cards. Mm-hmm. So they were able to get in with the RFID tag now, the day pass, registering the truck, and the TWIC card. So now we were in the port. Just like that. And I remember he gets in there. He goes, hey, hops on the phone with me. And I was like, what's up? Because I still don't have my TWIC card, right? He goes, hey, we need to go to see whatever. And I'm just making numbers up. I haven't been to TTI in a while. But, we need to go to C14 or, whatever, C15. And I'm like, he goes, do you know where that's at? I said, I have no idea what that's at. I don't even know what that is. You know what I mean? Like, is it like...
Finally got in.
Yeah, we're finally in, but now we have no idea we're trying to go to. My guy calls me, he's like, what do I do? I said, man, just keep going until somebody stops you. So he keeps going, and I just ask the troquero, ask him, hey. And little by little, he kind of starts to figure it out, getting chewed out. As a matter of fact, he almost gets banned for going into the no trucking area, the no truck area, where the ports, where the boats are getting loaded at. Oh. He's literally in the back getting chewed out by security.
Is my can in that fucking bezel, in that vessel right now?
Yeah, he's like, do I need to go on there to go get mine? Like, sir, no, go over there, He starts showing them, and they start kind of guiding us. Yeah. And that's exactly how we got into the ports, that's how we open those doors to be able to get into the port, man.
So you didn't let that, do you think if you would have known all those steps were necessary, would that have kind of had an effect on how you perceive it? Or that's just your style? You just kind of, what did I tell you earlier? If figuring it out as you go as a person, that's Big Joe. So is that your style?
That is my style with almost everything. My wife kind of puts me on, you always gotta have a balance. Sometimes I'm way too much. I'm a go guy. I don't like to sit around and let's see what happens. No. Nothing's gonna come to our door to save the day. Mm-hmm. I realized a long time ago, I used to be homeless. When I was a kid, I slept in parks and ate off of trash cans. And I figured this out one time, which in all aspect, now I know it was God, first and foremost. I know it was God. But at that moment, in that place and time in my life, when I was homeless and sleeping in parks, I told myself, nobody's coming to help you. There's nobody going to come and say, hey, Joe, here you go. I'm gonna give you this and I'm going to give you that, And there's nobody's going to come to the rescue. I have to figure this out. No matter what it is, no matter how difficult it gets, at the end of the day, the only answer to me was me. Like, this is the way we're going to get out of this. I got to push through. I got to pull through. If I want to eat, I got to find food. If I want to drink water, I got to find water. If I want, whatever it is at that time, and so my life has been a representation of that, just kind of having to figure it out, as we go. So when it came to the port, from losing, from one day looking for food to now you're telling me, okay, it's paperwork, it's money, and it's permits. I don't care about this. This means nothing. I'm going to figure it out. We're going to keep pushing into it until we get where we need to be. And thank God, with God's grace, and I think this came from, being where I was at one day at a park, sitting on a bench. I mean, a story I told to one of my buddies, and a story I have with me for a long time. And I don't know where this guy's at today, but I was sleeping at a park. I was probably 13 or 14 years old. And it was in the middle of December, December or January. It was really, really cold. I can remember how cold it was because it was cold. And I'm sitting at the park. I'm in a baseball park, and I'm in one of the dugouts, and it was so cold. This homeless guy is on the other side. I'm homeless, he's homeless. Two bums are chilling right there looking at each other. And I said, man, it's cold. He goes, and he's trembling. I can see him just kind of nodding off, trembling. And I'm trembling. I'm so cold I can't sleep. And I kind of looked at him and I said, no homo, I didn't say those words, but in my head I go, kind of tell him like, hey, fool, I'm 13 years old, but I've always been a big boy, so I know I can fend for myself. But I told him, hey, don't touch me, but hey, dude, you want to kind of cuddle up a little bit, I'm cold, butt to butt, you know what I mean? Like back to back. He's like, yeah, so we, as much as we could, we kind of get our backs to backs, and boom, we woke up. But it's just, that's what made me today the way I am. I feel like those moments is what gave me that drive, you know what I mean? And made moments, like you said, like, the port, there's a huge process. There's a big process, but it doesn't mean anything to me. We're going to figure it out.
And also the beauty of that is once you know, like that's extra knowledge, and on to the next level, huh?
Yeah. So once we figured it out, then I said, okay, now I got to look. During the pandemic, I said, I know everybody was busy. Everybody was running around. And I was looking for the little guy, the guy nobody wanted to help. Because if I found somebody that I can help and I can provide this service, I feel like they were going to end up giving me work down the line, which it did. It planned out just like that. In my head, I thought, hey, right now everybody's here. Everybody's trying to get the big fish. I need to find that little guy, the guy that nobody wants to help because they want to get paid by the big dogs. I need to find the underdog, and I did. I started reaching out to companies, and some companies were like, we have these huge companies already helping us. And I ended up getting on the phone. One day I'm just driving and I see a company that has containers out in the field, and I call them. They're like, yeah, we do need help. And I was like, okay, cool. It's like, we can't find nobody really because everybody, is at the port helping the big dogs. We don't have that much containers. I said, check this out. I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to pull 2-3 trucks, and I'm going to send them your way, and I'm going to let you keep them. You guys work them. We'll work them for you. We'll fit in your schedules and get them working, get your product moved, right now. And he's like, perfect. So we did that. Bam, bam, bam. And as that company grew, we kind of grew with it, right? Hey, bring us another truck. Give us another truck. Give us another truck. And before we knew it, I had, that company grew to a good size. But then what happened? The big stuff from the pandemic died down. It's dead. Everything that was coming in from the pandemic slowed down. Rates kind of came back down. So that company kept us busy. And to today, I still help that company. You know what I mean? But it was because of that decision that I took, God put me there at the right place at the right time, and, stepped out of my comfort zone, got on the phone, and made those deals, that ended up working out.
So as you go, you saw opportunities, and you, with a mix of your creativity, you kind of freestyled it how to succeed in this business. So like right now, you said you had an idea that you'll reach out. Like what put that idea in your mind? Like I like that perspective. Like, you know what? Everyone's stuck on the big, like, going for this. They think it's the easy way. They just want to land that big customer right away and go straight for the big customer. Yeah. But you chose like the sweet spot and something that was more of a long-term thing, probably.
That's what I was thinking at the time. See, this is what I've learned this. What goes up must come down, and what's down is going to come up. Okay. So I knew in the pandemic where everybody was high-five flying on is if you were in the trucking business and you weren't making money during the pandemic, you were the problem. You know what I mean? Simple as that. Because, man, if anybody had any type of brain, dude, they were getting it. I watched the port get filled with people. You couldn't fit, in the port. So I knew that. But what I also understood is this is not going to be here forever. At what rate can people continue to shop the way they're shopping right now? I was just watching this unfold in my eyes. I was like, there's no way that this can continue to happen over and over and over again. Because at the end of the day, everybody runs out of money at some point, right?
Yeah.
So if my math was correct, I said, this is going to end and something else is going to happen. So at my job, I said, I need to find somebody that's small, somebody that's nobody's paying attention to, kind of get into the mix with them, get into a working relationship and build with them as they grow. And that's exactly what I did.
The story of the per diem was inspiring as well because, and I know you're going to share it, but the reason being is because a lot of times based on the situation we're in, we let that be like the final verdict. Like, oh, I am so done because the way that the odds are stacked against me, I might as well throw in the towel now. I got this much debt. Everything's gonna fall apart. Like you start thinking small, like, okay, if that's gonna happen, then let me allocate the funds here, let me do this here. And you lose all that momentum you had because of that one perspective that you think it's all gonna end. And when you share that story, they're gonna know what I mean. And it has a very happy ending. So tell us about per diem, how you learned about it, and the little, I wouldn't say you called it stress, but from my point, it's like the stressful period of how the heck am I gonna get out of this?
So I had a customer reach out while we're in the ports pulling containers and stuff, and he goes, hey man, I got these loads, whatever, if you can help me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah. I agreed on the price. I start pulling containers. By then I already had my own concession stand, had made my own agreements. Of course, I don't know if people know the concession stand is not like one piece of paper that you just, no, it's quite a bit of paper. And then you got to reach out to the SSL lines. You got to get on board with them and all this stuff that you go through, right? I did it all, but without really knowing the fine print. Yeah. So one day I start pulling containers, and I'm pulling for a company, right? The containers are the CU line or whatever they were, the company that went bankrupt. But at the time I'm pulling for the customer, boom, 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 boom. Quite a bit of containers. I'm taking them to the yard, and they have a loader there that's offloading the whole container off the chassis. I think nothing of it. I'm like, cool, I'm just doing business. I'm getting paid, I'm happy. We're moving containers, the guys are busy. I've always been happy that my guys are busy. That's to me is a big deal. Yeah. I'm pumped. Everybody's working, we're making money, I'm happy. Everybody's happy.
We deliver these containers.
Yeah, we deliver them, think nothing of it. Boom, I go move on to the next big thing, right? I'm working. I get an email, so many containers are out for a certain period of time, and I'm like, so, what the hell does that got to do with me?
Yeah, you got your shit already.
Yeah, why you calling me? Like, you guys already have your stuff. So then it says your per diem fees are going to be, and the number exactly, dude, was like, it was almost, I'm going to say it was $100,000 or it might have been more. I can't remember the exact number, but it was up there. It was huge, right? But the per diem fees added to this with all the containers. And I sit there and I'm like looking at this like, what is this? Like, oh, it's a bill to me, right? I'm like, no, this ain't not even mine. What the hell is this? Per diem? What is a per diem? So I'm like, whatever. At that time, I started to see you on social media, right? So I said, Kontaineroz. I said, what is this? This guy's all right. He's posting some crazy videos. So I'm like, if it's Kontaineroz, he must know about containers. I still don't even know what mess I got myself into. I think I DM'd you and I said, hey, Luis, I got a question for you. If you have a minute or whatever, you DM me back your phone number. Cool. I get on the phone. I'm driving, right? I get on the phone. Hey, what's up, bro? You have time?
With the can on you?
Yeah, with the can on me. As they're taking it off. But I'm on the phone with you, and I'm like, hey, Luis, I got a question, man. And he goes, you tell me, like, what's up? And I say, what's a per diem? And you start to explain to me, hey, the product that's inside the container belongs to the customer. The container belongs to the SSL line. So it's kind of like you're renting the container from the SSL line if you go after your free days, right? And I sit there like, huh? I'm like, wait. So the customer does not own the container and the product? You're like, no. And I was like, wait, what? I thought the whole time as I'm delivering these containers to the outside world, the customer buys the container and the product. Yeah. Come to find out, no, they have to take the product out and we have to return the container, right?
I thought it was literally the shipping box.
I thought they bought the whole thing. I thought it's all theirs.
Yeah.
I'm winging it. So I start telling you, you start kind of like telling, like, what did you do? And I'll start telling you, like, And I was like, hey, well, they're going to sue me. You know, the customers, the steamship line is going to sue me. But I'm like, whatever, you know, what can I do? You know what I mean? It's money. I'll figure it out, you know. So we keep pushing. A court date comes, of course, I don't go. I'm just ignoring it. Screw it. See, whatever happens, happens. I mean, obviously, I did do it. I don't know what else to do. I mean, so I don't know exactly what happens with the court date and all that. I kind of just don't show up.
They did sue you then.
They sued me. Yeah, they sued me. Goes to court, whatever. I ignore it, move on.
That's all I do with my debt, but it just hasn't left.
Then, recently, actually, I think it was this year.
Yeah.
I get a letter saying that all those fees need to go from me to the customer now because the laws have changed when it came to that. So in my head, I'm like, no freaking way. No way. You know, and back in my mind, I said, one day they're going to come get me. Yeah. One day I'm going to have the feds blowing down my door and I'm going to go to jail because I owe somebody this much money, right? But at the end, I don't care. It is what it is. You didn't pay the per diem. Yeah, you didn't pay the per diem. You're going down, you know?
What are you in here, bro? What are you in here for?
What's your crime?
Per diem, bro.
The per diem. What are you talking about? You know, but...
Wow.
And the blessing and all of it ended up turning out, you know, that's what ended up happening. And to finish it all off, besides I'm having to push the bill to the customer directly now because they're supposed to be paying the bill because of the laws that changed, that company also bankrupt and went under, you know, and called it a day. I'm sure, I think they sold out. I don't know exactly how that works, like with what's owed or whatever, but, you know, like I said, at the end of the day, they ended up getting pushed over to the customer and left at that.
That's crazy to think that if you would have filed bankruptcy out of the fear, right? And then in the end, they filed bankruptcy anyway. You were probably not the only one that owed them. So
yeah. Oh, no. I'm sure there was a lot of people.
And you just thugged it out then.
I kept going, man. I you know.
This is kind of like a personal question. Did you ever pray on it, or how did you deal with it? Because sometimes, like, not to make it about me, but sometimes when I have stuff on the back burner like that, eventually it eats at you. So how did you deal with it on a level that kept you sane enough to keep functioning?
Number one, prayer. Always, man. I'm the type of guy to pray when I'm in my car, truck. You know, I don't drive as much anymore, but when I'm driving around, is kind of when I, you know, start talking to God, you know, and just kind of letting him know what's going on. And, you know, I know, you know, I'm a very hard-headed guy. I know that, you know, and it's what's guiding me here to this point. My anger, my frustration, you know, just keeps pushing me. But one thing, you know, that even my wife, she told me, you know, you can't always let that be the drive. That can continue to feed you because it destroys a lot in the process. You know, if it's just to prove people wrong, it's to, you know, your anger, your frustration, it's what drives you. How far is that really going to take you? And what damage are you going to cause in that journey with all that anger and all that frustration and just trying to prove the world wrong, trying to prove this and trying to prove that? Like, what are we going to get to at that? So I had to find a new drive, and through God, you know, I found it. You know what I mean? And it was God, you know, himself just guiding and showing and putting it in God's hands. You know, when things get difficult and things get hard, we always, you know, a lot of people tend to shut down. You know what I mean? A lot of people tend to shut down. You know, I just kind of turn it over to him and say, hey, you know, I know whatever's best for me is in this path. And I know you put me here for a reason, and we will figure it out. And I know that God has a plan. There is a plan. You can't let that be the driving factor all the time. All that, all the hurt, the pain, the frustration, the proving of wrong or right, you know, it can't always be the drive.
Well, you don't have that anymore, as far as like that. Well, forgive me for assuming, because you seem pretty chill now. Like you haven't snapped on me or hurt me. So, but
I'm sweating, dude.
Yeah.
Am I? Do I look?
But it's cool in here.
I know. I don't know. I don't know if I'm nervous or what.
Nah, you're good. Where am I going at with this? I lost my train of thought.
No, well, you were talking about the drive. So I'm not gonna say I don't have that anger and hurt and pain in me anymore because, you know, it's trauma.
That's what I was saying. Forgive me for assuming it's gone.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
it's not. I'm not saying that it's not there. There's still, for my kid, from being a child to now, there's been a lot of trauma. I'm not blaming anybody for anything. Growing up with my mom being first generation Mexicanos coming to the U.S. and going through what I went through, which is my own journey, my own path. There was a lot of hurt, a lot of pain, and it was a driving factor because I was always the underdog. I was always a kid nobody wanted around. And so, then I turned to like drugs and gangs, and it became this spiral where I ended up destroying me. But in the process, I said, let this be the reason. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. So I went on a mission, and I felt like it drove me to a certain point. But I remember my wife told me one day, it cannot continue to be your driving factor. That cannot be the only reason we're driving, because in the process, yeah, I'm making it, I'm getting out, and let's say I'm succeeding in a business and stuff, but I'm destroying, my kids, my wife, my home, my family, my mentals are getting messed up in other things, and I'm releasing that anger and that frustration, that hurt and that pain in other areas. So I'm not going to say I've fixed all of it or I've dealt with all of it, but through that, my wife started going to church, which in return, and there's another whole story there for another day, but in return led me to church, and start to find God, which in sitting back now today, realizing that God's hand has always been in the story. When I felt alone or I felt like I couldn't, just a minute ago I said a story about, how I ended up finding this work. Well, I didn't find the work found me, was kind of through God, I was like, man, sitting at the on the edge of my bed, on the verge of losing everything, and saying, man, God, I need some help, man. I don't have no work. I got all this money, and boom, an email comes in, and the circle starts of me going into the ports and, to where we're at today. But to say that I've healed from it completely, no. To say that it's a process and I'm learning and I'm growing, and it makes it a lot easier knowing God. It makes it a lot easier knowing, when you get angry or frustrated or upset and you want to lean on that, I got the Bible app on my phone. Sometimes I just pull up your daily bread, you know what I mean? And boom, that God's, he's reading to you, you know what I mean? He's giving you the answer through the Bible, you know what I mean? And you see it and you're like, oh, smack. You know what I mean? Like, and it kind of brings that calm to you again, that peace, that inner peace. And the new drive, the new reason, my family, my kids, the guys that work for me push me daily, because their families depend on this too, you know what I mean? So new driving factor, the people around me. And that's what pushes us now, pushes me, try to take it to that next level, which I feel like we're getting there.
Yeah. Regardless, there's people like with different perspective as far as like, how people with money say money isn't everything. And the people without money, it was like, well, shit, give me some of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So where I'm getting at with this is that, and this is a personal question, when you prove them wrong, when you finally prove them wrong, did that make you happy?
No. I never brought any satisfaction to me.
That might be some notes to take, guys, because sometimes we're chasing the success and we think that's going to end whatever we're dealing with inside.
Money is not the answer. Success, to me, as I tell my kids all the time, what do you define success as? The success is measured by the person holding the measuring stick. Your happiness is different than mine. I can buy a truck that's red and gold interior, and and you're like, oh, that truck's ugly. Oh, I want my truck black with, orange interior. Oh, that's like, again, success is measured by the person holding the measuring stick, right? My happiness is not your happiness. So I always tell my kids, do what makes you happy. Whatever you feel good, whatever brings happiness to yourself, and, Don't be scared to chase it. You know what I mean? Don't be scared to go after it. To me, was the goal, was at the beginning, the motive obviously was money like everybody else, and success and trying to get to that point.
Something always comes up after, like?
Always.
Yeah.
You start to realize it's bigger than you.
Yeah.
One day I sat there and I thought, one day I'm not even doing this for me. One day, if you think about it, we're doing this for our kids. We're breaking these generational curses that have been in our families for years. We came from nothing. I came from, my parents didn't have much. My brothers, like I gone hungry so many times, right? And what's the reason I do this? Why do we push and pull it, go and go and go? Why do we work 20-hour days, day in and day out? The reason to me today is my family, my kids, their kids, and their kids' kids, to see a different outcome so they will not have to go through the same trauma and the same hurt. Even if, today I can tell, some of my kids, my older kids, that I was not around as much for today that I was for, my baby today. I wasn't there when they were little. But it's for us to change that, for us to bring, we talk about our gente all the time. We're always talking about our people, right? Everybody wants to do it in front of the camera. Everybody wants to put in effort, but what happens when nobody's looking? What do you really do? What are you really about? One thing I heard a long time ago and I believe, how you help the poor? Don't be one of them.
Ooh.
How do you
You can't give back to your community if you ain't got nothing to give. Like, you can give your time, of course, but a lot of the things we can't deny that it's monetary goes a long way.
Long way.
People about to, you want to donate to a cause or something. And there's something that you mentioned earlier, but I don't want to spoil it. So if you don't want to bring it up at the moment, there's about something I saw at your yard. The auction.
We got.
That kind of like inspires the next question of like, as you grow, I don't know if the choice of words is proper, spiritually, or you evolve in your, addressing your traumas or whatever, or going full throttle on the faith. Is it safe to say that you start pivoting from selfishness to being of service to others and benefiting others? Which is, because of that thing I saw, I'm like, oh, that's interesting,
Absolutely. From where I came from to one day doing it, right, to me was, I used to tell my wife, I just want to make 50,000, and I just want to make 100,000, and that's when I want to win $1 million, and then I want to get a win. I want to make $1 million, then I want to make 10, right? Me telling my wife all these words, thinking of how selfish that is, you're just like, me, I want to do this, I want to do, but in reality, we get to a point, man, and then you look, and you want to help. It stops becoming about you, and it starts to become about everybody else. It's not just Joe. Now it's now we have the hand to be like, come on, who's the next boy up? Come on, who's the next one up? Let's bring you up. Everybody wants to go out there and help the raza like this and help the raza like that. They said, I give you $100, I feed you for a day or two. But if I teach you how to make hundreds, I can feed you forever. And you can teach the next man. And then you can teach your kids. And, to me, a big deal is I take my kids to restaurants to go eat Chinese, pizza, burgers, name it, whatever. And guess who's in the back working? It's our gente, our people. They're the ones working. But why are we always in the back? Why aren't we the owners of the LLC? Why aren't we owners of these corporations? It runs on our backs. You know why? Because nobody teaches us how to take it to the next level. Because sometimes we get so selfish and so caught up in us, we don't know how to, we just don't, it has to be on mine. Like, nah, man, there's enough for everybody. We can all eat off of this. They print more money faster than you can spend it. They make it.
I think part of the survival mentality is what keeps the limits there, right? Like
100%.
The crab in the bucket mentality. Because I think lately we're in the economy, I think, that is like collaboration is the new currency.
Yeah.
And with raza, I don't want to piss anybody off, but there's a lot of, what do you call it, envidia sometimes?
Envidia, yeah.
The person coming up next
Greed.
to you,
Absolutely. I agree with that, man. There is. But we can change that. See,
set the example.
Set the example, and people can change it. And this is what I tell my kids. Everybody wants to talk about what's kind of going on out there in the world. And I tell my kids, how we change that? Become a politician. Change it from the inside out. We're not going to win this fight this way. I always tell my kids, hey, you can be a politician. There ain't nothing holding you. Like, people say, oh, because of this skin color you can do this, or maybe that. I am a living proof. I am brown. I got tattoos, neck, face, head, you name it, I have them. I made something with myself, and I did something, and I give back to the community. I do what I can to help. You can. It can be done. Nobody holds. All the odds are stacked against me. All of them. I got my CDC number, juvenile hall, YA, prison, gangs, drugs, addictions. You name it, I was there. I was part of the show. I wanted to have a good time, not for a long time. I didn't think we were going to, literally, to be honest, and I know this story is crazy, we're doing things we shouldn't. I'm driving up and down the 99. When I was a kid, I used to think, if they go to pull me over, the way I'm going to go out in this world, I'm going to end up getting into a, with the police, and it's going to end there. Mm-hmm. That's how I used to think. That's how I thought my life would end one day. I thought, I'm going to be this grand finale, and it's, going to be a show. It's going to be a 4th of July show, Literally, that's what I thought. That's how stupid that mentality was. How those worlds, that environment gives us and what we believe and feed ourselves. Mm-hmm. But look at us today, yourself, myself, and many other stories like us. We've came from nothing and built it, and that's why we can change it forever. Yourself and a lot of people have huge, tremendous platforms that can take it to the next level. And by that I mean simply showing you how to do the hustle the right way, how to go out there. How do you open an LLC? What does it take to get your EIN? You want to be a trucker? What does it take to get your MC, your DOT, your CA? How does it take to get into the ports, the drayage? How do you get onto your E-motor, your RFID tag, your TWIC? How do you do all this? Well, here, this is the way we do it. Simple, straightforward. Yes, it's a lot, but take it all in and take it one day at a time. Whatever you got in today, be happy, accomplish it. Whatever you tell yourself in the morning, you tell myself, okay, no matter what happens, I need to fix this truck. I need to change this turbo. Okay, whatever happens in the day. As long as I get this done, I'm happy. This is what's important. Okay, right now, for example, as long as I can get this turbo replaced, changed, and get this done with this truck, I'm happy. Right? I go out there, I get the turbo, I buy whatever I got to do, replace it. Okay, whatever's extra, whatever we get done, man, it's a plus. That's icing on the cake, right? So, it's going to be, there's huge things coming up, big opportunities. Don't want to spoil it, but.
So any advice you have for, people that are trying to make it in trucking or maybe business in general, or anything you want to add that I didn't ask?
People want to get out of trucking because it says this and that. I tell you, get in it. Huh. Get in it, stay in it. Don't be scared, man. I know sometimes rates ain't what they want to be, but I tell you this, if you stay in it and you consistently pick up the phone, you consistently clock in, eventually you will win. It's just a matter of when. You can't give up. The only reason we fail because we give up. Right? I've done a lot of things in my life, business-wise. I tried different things, and then I gave up. I was like, man, that's enough. Okay? But if I would have stayed in it, I guarantee you it would have been somewhere else today. And this is what I say to trucking, man. If you're thinking about it, do it. I don't care what everybody says. Don't listen to me. Thousands of times I've heard over, this and that. I know rates are cheap and people say this or the trucking industry is down. Yeah, it might not be what it was 50 years ago. It might not have been what it is 10 years ago. It might not have been. It's not what it is last year. Mm-hmm. But you make it work for you.
There's something there because a lot of people that made it and blew up during COVID, they're not around anymore, and you would think that, safe to say, am I wrong? You were active during that time. Yeah, well,
I started my company in 2018.
So slightly before, right?
Slightly before. I didn't know nothing about Port World.
But you managed to survive despite having that peak where people were splurging and just thinking it was going to stay like that forever. I think that's what hit a lot of them by surprise.
That's exactly what it was.
And then now you're still in it. So,
yep.
So you're practicing what you preach, I could say?
Yeah.
To these people that are...
Stay in it.
Get in it long term?
Get in it. Don't be scared. I mean, life's tough. Life's hard. It's hard if you're poor and it's hard if you're rich. There's choose your heart.
The per diem story, bro. Like that one is like just keep going. Don't shut down willingly. You know, like si va a hacer, si se va a hacer, se va a hacer.
Yeah. But even if they come or push through, don't give in. You know, this is what I say. I don't have no money. What are you going to take? Owe you money? One of the two. Get in line so I can get you on a payment plan or something. Or what? Like, what do you want to do? You tell me. I have no money. What are you going to come after? I have anything. You know, that's how I looked at it. What are you going to take from me? I don't have money. So get in line with everybody else and let me get to this grind. Let me get to this hustle. And if I make it to that side, hey, it's your money. I'll eventually give it back to you, you know, if that's the way this plays out. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But what I say is get in it. Be fearless. When people say no, don't listen to them, man. Don't listen to the outside noise. Don't listen to this guy and that guy. Man, put the work in, and I promise you, it will pay off. When is the question? But it will pay off.
Well, thank you for that. And you've gone hard on your business exploration, you know, or whatever you want to call it. So you do have other businesses. So if you want to, as we wrap it up, if you want to shout out any of your new businesses and or let them know where they could reach you, if anyone has questions for you directly, now's the time to do it.
So I got Joe's Diesel Smog and Repair. So if you guys need your smogs, your carb, I know everybody's doing them now, but I actually know about trucks. I like a lot of these guys. If you guys need help with that, reach out. You can reach me on Instagram and my phone number, 661-229-6378 is the number. You know, DM me, shoot me a call, and we'll take care of you guys, man. At least when it comes to any questions you guys have, always reach out. You know, stay with it.
All right, thank you, man.
Yeah, stop, brother.
Thank you for your time.
Yes,
and,
sir.
Let's get this
wrapped up.
This channel going, you know.
Yes, sir.
Thank you guys for tuning in, and until next time, peace.